Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Chris Dost. I'm glad you can join me for the second part of my interview with Dr. Paul Copan. If you haven't seen the first video yet, please be sure to click the link up in the corner of your screen and you'll be able to watch it there. Before we begin, however, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Click the bell below to be notified when I publish future videos. And please be sure to share this video on social media and leave a comment below. All right. Dr. Copan holds the Pledger Family Chair of Philosophy and Ethics at Palm Beach Atlantic University. There, he's also helped to establish the new MA program in Philosophy of Religion, which launched in August of 2021. For 6 years, Paul served as the president of the Evangelical Philosophical Society, and he's the author or editor of over 40 books, including works such as The Routledge Companion to Philosophy of Religion, The Naturalness of Theistic Belief, Creation Out of Nothing, Philosophy of Religion, A Little Book for New Philosophers, Is God a Moral Monster, and the Kalam Cosmological Argument. He's also contributed essays to over 50 books, both scholarly and popular, and he has authored a number of articles in professional journals. And in 2017, he was a visiting scholar at Oxford University. Now, this work that you published in 2018 deals with some of the more controversial matters in Genesis 1 through 11. Can you talk to us a little bit about how your views are similar to and different from leading thinkers in the field?
Yeah, hopefully doesn't, I mean, I know there can be an array of views within the Christian community, and sometimes the emotions can get very high if you, don't buy into one particular perspective, I suppose we could say. And I would say that in this book, Origins, what we're trying to do, and Doug Jacoby, who does work in Christian apologetics and Bible exposition and so forth, we've teamed up to look at various theological themes and really emphasize the theological dimensions, and secondarily how they relate to scientific research and discovery. So we want to keep the main thing on the theological and draw out the lessons that Genesis 1 through 11 teaches. And we're also trying to be judicious and careful about not reading science into Genesis 1 through 11. It wasn't intended to be a science textbook, yet a lot of people read it as though this is, you can read this as a supplement to your biology textbook or something like that. And that wasn't the intention of the ancient Near Eastern of Moses and company in the ancient Near Eastern context, to write about the Big Bang or something like that, and to use terminology that would be familiar to modern day scientists would be completely lost on a nomadic agrarian population in the ancient Near East. And so a lot of the concepts that were familiar in the ancient Near East are utilized, but also you have the pushback on a lot of, say, ancient Near Eastern cosmogonies, or how the universe or how the world came into being. And so you see the language, the categories that are used within the ancient Near East that are appropriated. Of course, Moses was familiar with the literature of the Egyptians and beyond, and so he tapped into those sources, but also set monotheism in contradistinction to those polytheistic and worldviews of the ancient Near East, and showed how the biblical faith stood out in terms of God's creating, for example, out of nothing, creating by his word, that God is one who, rather than the gods fighting with each other or copulating with each other and producing human beings, or being, we could say, in some accounts, the gods are lazy, the lower gods are lazy, and they don't want to do the work of digging these irrigation canals, and so they create human beings to do their work for them. And so you see, by contrast, a very distinctive portrayal of human beings being made in the image of God, being made as rulers with God, having that distinctive of ruling over the creation with God. So rather than this being you've got to do my dirty work for me, it's actually an honor and a privilege to share in the rule of God. And rather than kings, for example, being the image bearers of the gods, you see all human beings being made in the image of God. And so it's a wonderful picture of this fundamental equality is being portrayed. There is no classism, no hierarchy within humanity. And so anyway, those are some things that we talk about. But of course, there are controversies. What do you do with something like theistic evolution? Some evangelicals are very strongly opposed to it. Others are more sympathetic to it. And we basically don't try to go in and settle these issues. I do think that there are we can, in some ways, move past some of those controversies to focus on the main thing. What we try to do, and I would say, just take, some people say, well, look, Genesis 2 talks about God creating human beings from the dust of the ground. There's a picture of direct creation here. Well, is it direct creation? It could go that way, but I think there's another possibility. You could also say this is, of course, a very terse statement that is being made here. And when you look at other portions of Scripture, what looks like direct creation actually we know isn't direct creation. So, for example, in Job 10, we see that Job, he says, "Will you whose hands fashioned me from the clay return me to the dust again?" Well, did God directly create Job? Was this a special creation? No. Job talked about mourning or lamenting the day that he was conceived and when it was announced that a boy was born. So it was just a normal reproductive process through which Job came into existence. And also in Psalm 139, the psalmist says, you knit me together in my mother's womb. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Well, is this a picture of direct creation? No, God put into place certain processes and laws. And when you look back at it, you say, wow, that is amazing. God did that. God is behind it. And so we're in the book, we're trying to recognize that there are multiple ways of looking at this, multiple possibilities, and what we try to do, like I said, is keep the main thing. And even as I'm speaking with people on the whole evolution question, my goal isn't to try to dismantle their view of evolution. I'll say, let's just take evolution for granted. There's still a number of things that need to be in place before you can even get to the evolutionary process. And so if evolution is true, why not say that God did it? Why can't this dovetail into God's overarching purposes? So you need a universe before you can get evolution going. You need a universe that's finely tuned for life. So even before you get to evolution, you need a universe. You need a finely tuned universe that permits life. You also need a universe that not only permits life, but also actually produces life. And then you also need a universe that can sustain life to get it from a single-celled organism to Homo sapiens. Well, if God exists, all of the contingencies are removed. God's existence makes all of this highly probable, and so that's really the kind of focus that we're bringing to bear on this. And even in the whole Genesis 1 and 2, 6 days, 6 literal days, and so forth. That's not really the emphasis. The emphasis is really more on a literary and theological structure in Genesis chapter 1 and into the early portions of chapter 2, where you have the form, of this, or the structure, the realms that God is creating. The 3 separations, and then in the next 3 days, there is a corresponding filling of those forms or realms. So you have the light and dark separated. You have the waters above and the waters beneath, and then they have the land and the waters separated. And then those realms were filled. The sun, moon, and stars for the days and seasons and years. Then you have the birds of the air and the fish of the sea. And then finally, on the sixth day, you have the land beasts and human beings that fill that realm. So that's a highly literary and theological structure. And we have to be careful about trying to read too much modern science into that kind of a literary structure. That wasn't the purpose, that wasn't the intention of what it was going on in Genesis 1 and why it was written. So those are a few things that could perhaps be brought up in the conversation, but we're trying to keep the main thing the main thing.
If you've enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, click the bell below to be notified when videos like this are published in the future, and please be sure to share this video on social media and to leave a comment below. All right, we'll see you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.